What is up guys, it is Ross and welcome back to another Mario Kart Wii Limitless vehicle showcase and developer commentary. In this episode we will be going over the Tiny Titan. And the Tiny Titan is a very peculiar vehicle in Mario Kart Wii Limitless, right? Because I'm just driving, right? But when I start a drift, all's fine for now. But you can see there, I tilted a lot. This thing is very tilty and very trippy, and ow, I just got hit by a star. So yeah, Tiny Titan's defining gimmick is that it basically, if you hard drift, it tilts and that lets it attack turns really tightly. This was actually one of those quirks that was a carryover from Rebalanced. And I think Wii Deluxe also has this gimmick in Tiny Titan, but I could be wrong. But yeah, basically it was a very popular gimmick in those mods, so we decided to incorporate it into our own, and see what we could do with it. Tiny Titan stat spread is not too crazy. Well, I say that, but it has both a really high off-road stat and a really high mini-turbo stat, but the rest of its stats are pretty, like, average. Like, it's not the goofiest vehicle out there when it comes to its statistical yield. The main gimmick of Tiny Titan, naturally, is the fact that it tilts, which has some interesting applications. You can see there, maybe not the best example because I was at a low speed after recovering from a red shell, but you can see that when I trigger the tilt, I actually drift very tightly, and that's kind of one of the skills that you need to learn when using the Tiny Titan, is learning how to weaponize its tilt, because that tilt can be weaponized, and if you don't want the tilt to trick in, the tilt doesn't kick in when shock's in play, so I won't be able to showcase it here, but I'll try and showcase it on the fountain turn coming up in 3, 2, 1. I'm soft drifting right now, and you can see that the tilt isn't kicking in at all, really. So if you want to like prioritize stability or even just take a narrow turn, you can just soft drift and, you know, the tilt won't kick in at all. But if you need to make a really tight turn in like a pinch, you hard drift and the tilt will kick in a lot. Statistically speaking, Tiny Titan is extremely close to Super Blooper, but Super Blooper having hybrid drift and Tiny Titan having like the tilt mechanic is like a major way that those two vehicles can be set apart in spite of their statistical similarities. So you can pick a favorite, and really quickly I'll just showcase Tiny Titan's off-road there. As you can see, Tiny Titan's off-road is excellent. It has one of the highest off-road stats out of all karts. I believe it's second only to the off-roader itself. So on tracks like Garden of Dreams, which is the track we just played, for those of you that don't know your CT lore, Tiny Titan can definitely abuse that strength, which is very cool indeed. The combination of excellence in off-road and mini-turbo has led to me coining like a new term for these vehicles. I call them brute vehicles, and the reason for the name is because basically a lot of people in the past have pointed out how vehicles like these can just brute force their way through off-road shortcuts, which is kind of cool, because like you can have like, let's say you activate your mini turbo here, and well, that's probably a bad example, but if your mini turbo was long enough, you could actually preserve it the whole way through the cut, and your off-road stat is high enough that you can preserve your drift in the off-road and potentially chain another mini turbo after the fact, which can definitely give birth to some very creative lines and strategies when using the Tiny Titan. I actually messed that up, but the Tiny Titan's off-road is just its saving grace, you know? That was just my salvation there. Like, I messed that up. If I were on a kart like, I don't know, Flame Flyer, or maybe Cheap Charger as well, or Blue Falcon, I probably wouldn't have been able to live to tell the tale, but because Tiny Titan can drift through off-road without the assistance of a speed boost, I was able to salvage it and go fast enough to where I didn't fall in, well, the world's smallest crevice, to be fair, but like, you know, when your speed is reduced, you'd be surprised the amount of random little creeks and gaps you can fall into. Like, it's actually absurd. Redemption! Oh! Ooh, made it. Oh, the power dodge too. Oh my god, I'm on a fucking roll, boys. Oh my god. Alright, let's see if we can do this. Nah, we're not doing it properly. Let's... Okay. Oh, okay. That... I was gonna say that works, but it really didn't. Tiny Titan's high center of mass kind of screwed me there. Like, you can weaponize it with its tilt, but the fact that its tires are so high up can lead to some very interesting ledge interactions, as you probably just saw. I'm gonna trap this shortcut, which is useless because CPUs never take that shortcut, but you know, it will serve as like a nice obstacle to dodge whenever it comes to lap 3, where I will probably forget that I put that there. That's fine. That's not fine. Oh, almost. I actually shocked myself with how well I was able to dodge the fib right until the end there. If I didn't bonk off the track, that would be sick. I'm clip farming this race, so I am. Like, oh my god. Like, the amount of shenanigans that happened that race was truly... my mind is blown. GC and Dino Dino Jungle is interesting because a lot of carts can do the ramp shortcut shroomless, and Tiny Titan in particular is excellent at it. It's one of those shortcuts that I can put its brute forcing shortcuts ability to use. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to hang by the CPUs a little bit, because Tiny Titan's tilt, you can weaponize it, but also other racers can abuse it. Like, if you get touched, like, like, it can trigger the tilt, like, preemptively. And when you're, like, trying to charge a drift, that can, like, completely ruin your life. Yeah, even like, light bumps like that are more than enough to, like, send you on your side, basically. And obviously that's not ideal when you're trying to drift and, like, build up a mini-turbo. Because, like, when you trigger the tilt, obviously it massively spikes your drift sharpness. And when that happens when you're not expecting it, that's like a one-way ticket to getting sent off the track. So when you're using this vehicle, situational awareness is key. Like, you kind of have to play like a bike player at times. Because, like, you just don't want to be hit. And the tilt mechanic actually, like, gives Tiny Titan, like, a bit of volatility that it would otherwise lack in its stats, because its acceleration is actually very high. And truth be told, its weight isn't terrible. It's the heaviest lightweight vehicle by a pretty substantial margin, so bumps don't hurt it as much as you'd expect if you're not in a drift, but obviously when you're in a drift and that tilt kicks in involuntarily, you need to adapt. It's definitely a wild card vehicle for sure, but if you can master it, like, there's definitely a high skill ceiling and viability ceiling that you can hit if you were to master its tilts, if you were to know when and when not to trigger it, if you were to be aware of your surroundings. Because the thing about Tiny Titan is, it's got really long mini-turbos, but its base speed is notably higher than, like, Cheap Charger and Day Tripper. So if you're able to get those mini-turbos off uninterrupted, you just go faster than them, which is honestly pretty funny. Now, on tracks where the mini-turbo stat is of utmost importance, obviously you will lose time. And, like, theoretically, in the majority of instances, those two vehicles will still outspeed you. Their speed to mini-turbo ratio is just more optimized for front-running. But Tiny Titan's high acceleration, good handling, not terrible weight, and off-road expertise, most notably, give it like a lot of versatility and a strong mid-pack niche that neither of those two vehicles can really claim. So Tiny Titan very much has its place in the roster for sure. You know, we're just going on a little day trip at this point. Pardon the pun, because I was just talking about that vehicle. Alright, and that is a 60 on the Tiny Titan. Very silly vehicle and very wacky vehicle, but I suppose its existence is proof that Limitless can harbour a lot of wacky and goofy playstyles and make them work at top level, which you'll love to see. Folks, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out the previous parts if you haven't already, and the next parts when they come out. And until next time, that's Ross, signing out. Goodbye.